Alright, so last week we took a look at Midjourney and how we can use that to create actual like concept art that you later on turn into like an actual 3D environment. This week I need to make a short video because I'm pretty busy and I still want to produce something, put it up on YouTube, so I'll have to limit myself to what I have. So last week I worked on another render. You maybe saw it, maybe you didn't, but I recorded the whole process of me creating that. It took about like 3 hours, and now we're gonna take a look at the speed up version of that, and I'm gonna like comment on top of it, and I'm gonna explain you why I've been doing the things the way I've been doing them and so on, right? And maybe you get a few pointers, maybe you get a few tips out of watching me like work and do stuff on that fucking thing. Next week we are gonna go into some actual like 3D work. We are gonna create a whole environment, and it's gonna be us who's gonna create it. We're gonna model shit, we are gonna sculpt shit, we are gonna texture stuff, and yeah, pretty much I'm gonna teach you how to create an actual 3D environment, like an actual environment artist, right? Not this like easy stuff where you just get assets from the internet and like put them up together and make some stuff, right? We're gonna learn how to actually do those things on our own, so we are able to create everything we want, and we are not limited by anything, right? We're not limited by the assets we find online. We're not limited by anything. So let's take a look at like the speed up version of me working on the last project and see what's going on, for me to understand how big something is, because without a human being sitting in there, I have no idea what the fuck is going on, right? Just like imagine this whole plane without the human in there. It could be like 200 meters, it could be like 2 meters, I have no idea. But having a person in there just makes you understand what's the scale of everything. And if you're not doing it, I recommend that you get a human model, any fucking thing, like 180 meter dude, just throw it in your scene, and it's gonna make a whole lot of difference. You're gonna see the scene a lot different thanks to him, right? So here I'm just modeling the ground plane, which is basically just a plane, and I'm just moving stuff around. Now I have to create the cave. And what's a cave? Well, it's simply just a cylinder subdivided by a lot and then just moved around in like random order to create like this abstract kind of looking plane. And that's just the cave, right? So this is what I'm doing. I'm creating a big fucking cylinder, and I'm rotating it a little bit, and yep, I'm just gonna go into edit mode, and I'm gonna start like moving things around. As you can see, having the proportional editing tool enabled lets me do all sorts of crazy things, right? So here it is. Just by moving a few things around, and I already have like a cave looking scenario. Okay, so let's see what's going on next. Okay, so right now you can see me so as you saw, like the concept art has like this thing on the left where the lights shine through, and the easiest way to do that is to just go in there and just delete a few faces. I'm using displacement, of course, to create like the rocky texture, and here it is. We already have a like fucking cave just by using a little bit of displacement. The only thing I wanted to do next is to just multiply the AO texture of the cliff texture into the shader, right? So I have like this. I have some more depth into it. Nothing crazy. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just deleting a few faces out there, and now it looks like an opening into the cave. Super simple. Next, I'll be working on the ground, and I'll be doing the same thing, right? I want to have like a pretty detailed ground, so even though it's going to be further away from the camera, I wanted to have a little bit of like height, like actual geometry. So I know what texture I'm going to be using on the ground, and I'm using the displacement texture from that texture set to displace the ground. But the thing is, I'm gonna do it in a smart way. So here you see me that I've been selecting just the middle part of the ground, and I've like duplicated, like I've cut it, it just, what the fuck is the word I'm looking for? I've separated that from the main object, and the reason is the following, right? I want to have more subdivision on this part of the ground, because it's gonna be center on, and the outside can be like low poly because it's gonna be darkness, it's gonna be shadow, and you're not gonna see the stuff that well. So in order to save up some performance, I'm separating the two objects. I'm using a bigger subdivision level on the middle part, and then a much lower subdivision level on the outside ring, right? Just enough to, you know, get some performance value out of what we're doing. The rule is, if you can see it, then it makes no sense for you to worry about it, right? Especially when you're doing like still renders. So here you'll see me using this add-on a lot, so I'm gonna recommend it every single time. It's called Botaniq. Go to Blender Market, search for it, and just buy it. It's great. It's great. It has so everything you see on my screen, you have access to all of those. You can just click on them and you have like really good quality vegetation. So I got just a fucking like two trees apparently, and I just duplicated them a bunch outside to create, like, make it seem like we are inside an actual forest, right? So nothing crazy, just duplicating, rotating, and scaling the same tree around by a bunch, making it look interesting, right? It's really, really simple. Everybody can do this. Just take some trees and move them around, and you have a forest. Now I want to add a little bit of green inside the cave, because, well, vegetation grows into caves as well, so why not add some vegetation into the cave? It's gonna, you know, make it more interesting. Here I'm using a rock from Quixel that I'm putting like really close to the camera, so it kind of has this foreground element. And I found this really interesting rock shape on Quixel, right? And I thought that it would be perfect to be used in the middle of the frame, and right, because it has like this U shape, right? This convex shape on it, and I don't know, compositionally wise, it just makes sense to put it in the middle. It makes you look right in the middle, where I know I'll be placing a character. So yeah, it just made sense to use that right there. So it was like the perfect asset for me right to drop into the scene. And as you can like see, it also plays like a really, really good, it creates really good guiding lines, because we are gonna have the huge figure in the background. So everything we have in here kind of like draws your attention into that area, right? The walls create those guiding lines into the opening. You see those lines going in there, and you also see like this foreground element also points into that direction. So everywhere we look, the elements on the screen are guiding us into the middle of the screen, and that's really important when you're laying out your scene to understand those like composition values. Right now, I drop a few rocks from Quixel just to add a little bit of variation on the ground, because otherwise it's really flat and really not that interesting. So just grab some Quixel stuff, they're free, and use them. Just use them. No one cares, right? They're free, they're for everyone, so just make good art using them. Makes sense. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm using the the IV generator, the geometry nodes generator, the same thing from the last week's video. So yeah, just using that to add a bunch of IVs on top of the cave. Right, and this is all procedural. I'm just telling it where to like place stuff, and then it's gonna create this whole like vegetation on top of the object that I'm telling you to do. All right, so here I'm struggling with some things, but I was just stupid enough to have a light into the instancing group. So that's why it was instancing like a bunch of fucking lights, and I didn't really understand what was going on until I understood what was going on, and then I just fixed it. Okay, so things like this happen, just don't fucking panic. Here I'm going straight into the lighting. So as you know, I really like working with area lights. So I took one area light, I put it outside. I knew that the light should be shining from the back, right? So it's kind of like it's pushing light right into the camera. So I moved the area light over there, and now I'm just playing with the directionality and intensity and the color, right? So I'm trying to get some really good lighting values. So I'm playing around with the intensity. I'm playing around with a little bit of the HDRI that I didn't really use that much. Again, I love using HDRIs just enough to be like an ambient light, just to not have like really, really dark shadows. That's what I love doing with HDRIs, and the rest of it comes from like actual practical lights. Here you see me testing around different colors, different like directions for the camera. And of course now it's time for the thing that makes everything look good, which is volumetrics. If you don't use volumetrics in your scene, then you are losing out. That's all I can say. Just drop volumetrics into any fucking scene that you work on, and you cannot go wrong with it. Yeah, it's gonna add a lot of time into the rendering times, but if you have like a beefy computer, you shouldn't give a fuck about it. The volumetrics are too good not to use. So yeah, just look at this. Directly, just by using a little fog, the scene just looks good. Even like this, it looks bad, but it still looks good, right? So yeah. Right now I'm just playing around with the colors, the lighting, the fog, intensity, and all of that. I'm trying to decide if I want... So I know I want to have like two colors. I want to have the same that's in my room, right? I want to have a warm color, and I want to have like this like cool color that's complementing the other warm color. So I'm trying to make out if I want to use the warm color outside, like from the main entrance, and the cool light from the top stuff, or I want to switch them up. And in the end, I honestly I would have maybe left them like this, but I wanted to stay a little bit true to the concept art, and for that reason I decided to switch them up and use the cool color from the main entrance and the warm color from up top. Okay, so now what I do is basically, right, I'm gonna stop a little bit, I'm gonna explain it, I'm gonna let you see what's going on. So the way I like to spread like grass on the ground, I don't really like doing like particle system on top of the actual plane that I want to put grass on top of. So instead I use like a cylinder, like a circle, and I'm scattering a bunch of particle like grass on top of that, and then I'm just gonna use that and just scatter it around like manually, especially if I don't have like a huge space to cover. Alright, so this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm making like an instance of this like group, and then I'm just placing it around, and this way I have a lot more control. It's gonna be a lot more performant, right, because I'm not like adding a lot of it, and I can place it like really where I want it to be. So with that I just added a little bit more green on the ground, so it's kind of matching the vegetation on top, right? Because otherwise it would be like too much rocky on the ground, let's say. Again, I'm playing around the lighting, so lighting always gets changed a bunch until you like find the appropriate one. I decided it's a little bit too dark in the cave where it's like closer to the camera, so I added like this fill light from the back. That's really subtle, just enough to make some stuff visible, some of the details more visible on the walls. Here we see me adding another Quixel asset, right? It's a few logs, right? So just wanted to get some wood in there because we don't have any wood, and wood is a big part of the nature stuff. Yeah, so I'm getting this little branch and I'm putting it in on top, like really close to the camera, because I want to add like this out of focus element, right? That's obstructing a little bit the view, but not too much. It just makes it look like someone is looking at the scene like through a frame, let's say. And yeah, just testing out different compositions with the big stump, right? I'm duplicating it and I'm adding it on the right, because I wanted to catch that warm color from the second light. Here you see me doing this every single time, getting stuff up close to the camera so they're out of focus and they create like this really nice frame that's really out of focus and makes everything like look cozy and makes it seem like you are actually in there, living in that space. So now I've got my dude. So this is me creating like the big guy in the back. So I got my dude, the one that I use for reference. I rigged it, right? I added some bones so I can like just move the arms a little bit and move the head. And then I've done some cloth simulation in order to create like a cape, right? You'll see it, right? So here I'm making just a plane. I'm cutting out the part where the head is gonna go, and yeah, I'm just doing a little bit of cloth simulation in order to get that cape on his back. So I'm playing around with different shapes, different quality simulations until I find something more that I like. And here I'm putting it into its own collection that's called Hero, and yeah, I'm just placing it where he needs to be and just do the cloth simulation there. And once I enjoy the cloth simulation, I'm just baking it, just baking the simulation, right? Just enough, just 100 frames was all I needed, and just applied it. And now it's time to get everything back into the scene and see what we have, right? Now I need to work on the cape material. I knew I wanted it to be like, first I tried something black, but then I thought that making it red is a really good opportunity for me to create like a even more of a focal point, right? Because if it's red, then it's gonna be right into your face, and there's no way your eyes are not gonna be drawn into it. So here it is, it's still black, but I'm not really satisfied with it because it looks kind of boring. And later on I decided that it just makes sense for it to be red. I tried a few things. I tried to add some hair on this dude's head. That didn't really work out. It looked like shit. So in the end, I kind of like went with let's keep this dude bald, because why not? Okay, so here you see me like painting some white paint for where the hair should be, right? And then I realized that all the bones I've created, I've messed some stuff up, and I had to do another vertex group and just paint the weight again. And now I was good. I started grooming the dude, just pulling the hair back, making something, then just making the hair a little bit more messy, right? So just moving a few sliders around, it's enough. But then when I looked at the render stuff, like the render view, the hair looked like shit, and I didn't like it, and I decided that fuck it, right? Because I don't know, I just didn't like it, so I just deleted the hair. And now you see me making the cape red, and I wanted the light to shine through it, and the subsurface stuff didn't really did what I wanted. So turning the transmission up to 1 really made the difference. As you can see, when I turned the transmission up to 1, you can see the figure of the dude, right? It's in the shadows, and then you can see like the light passing through the rest of the material, which is like, I really enjoyed that effect, and I'm happy that I decided to just move the transmission slider upwards, even though it didn't really make sense, because yeah, I didn't want it to be like transparent, but it turns out it was a really nice effect. Okay, so right now I'm looking for like a main character, right? So I'm not a character artist. I will never like sculpt or model characters. That's not something I'm interested in. That's not something I'm good at, and I don't want to learn that. I don't want to spend time making characters. Period. That's not why I do 3D art. So every time I have to use a character that actually like looks good, not just like a fucking bald guy in the background, every time I have to use like an actual character that looks good, I either buy the model or I find some shit online that's free. So that's what I've done. I found a free model on CG Trader. If I don't forget, I'm just gonna link it, but I usually forget the shit I say I'm gonna link, so I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. Yeah, but here it is, the character. It had a lot of missing textures, and I didn't want to bother to find them. I didn't even know if they're gonna be found or not, so I decided to, everything that doesn't have texture and it's pink and looks like shit, I'm gonna delete. Right, so here I'm just messing around, and I'm bringing it into my own scene right now, and I'm trying to find a good place for this girl, this warrior girl, to live in my scene, right? So I'm trying out a few different positions. I'm making sure that the focus is on her, and then it's all about going to rendering view and seeing how things look, right? So here you see me. Okay, so I didn't delete those parts. I just added like really simple principled shader material on top of it, and now you see me just moving the girl around, trying to find a good place for her. I'm playing around with the skin shader of the big dude on the back, and now yeah, that's that's it. So after that, I just went into like I organized my scene. That's what I do after I'm kind of done with the scene. I organize them into collections and then put collections into collections, so it's easier for me to render in passes. I rendered the scene, and I mean, here's the final look, right? Okay, so let me pick that up. Okay, so like here is the final version. So after that, I just went into Photoshop, I composited the image. I didn't record that, of course, because I didn't do it right after, and once I did it, I didn't feel like turning the camera on. But yeah, this is the final result. I'm really happy with it. It's interesting, not my best work, of course, but nice stuff for 3 hours of work in an afternoon. One more thing I've done in Photoshop was using the pen tool to copy this foreground element and add a bit of subtle like fog. You can see it, right? You can see it around here, and yeah, that's pretty much the scene. So here is just a few close-up shots with the opening on the top. Yeah, okay, so this is it. This is how you make a scene by not actually creating the assets and doing really fast. Like I told you, that took me like 3 hours of just working with no breaks, right? Because it's easy. I just had to put stuff in a nice way and then just light them in a nice way, and I came up with this. This is what we do. This is what we will be creating next week. So let me give you a small run through what we are gonna do. So we are gonna want to recreate this concept art, and we are gonna do the following. We are gonna create the mountains, right? We are gonna model them and we are gonna texture them. Then we are gonna like texture this really big thing, like what the fuck, this cow, like this huge mountain entrance, and we are going to sculpt the details on top of it. We are gonna texture it. Then we are not gonna create the trees because I hate doing vegetation, so we are gonna get a tree, but we will learn how to render so many trees without fucking up our render times. And yep, we are just gonna learn how to do the foreground as well. We are gonna model, we are gonna sculpt, texture, blah, yada yada yada. So if you're interested in becoming like an environment artist, I really recommend staying around for next week's video, because you are gonna learn stuff that you actually do in an environment artist role. But yeah, that's it for today and for this week. See you next time.